Our inspirational personality for this week is Booker T. Washington. And the resource is the African American Book of Values by Stephen Barboza. In the story that Booker T. Washington tells today, we first learn that he is one of America's most influential black leaders. His lifespan was from 1856 to 1915. He was born a slave in Virginia and rose to build the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute, which was a major educational center for blacks. Well, Mr. Washington secured a little shanty and church, then set the date of July 4th, 1881 for the opening of the school. Whites as well as blacks were interested in starting the new school. Whites looked on the school with disfavor, questioning its value to black people, as well as having a fear that it might result in bringing trouble between the races. Some whites felt that as blacks received education, his value as an economic factor would decrease, and his use as a domestic servant would be lost. Approximately 30 students, 15 male and 15 female, reported for admission to school that first morning that it opened. Criteria for admission were the student must be above 15 years of age, had previously received some form of education. Mr. Washington was the only teacher. The greatest portion of students was public school teachers, some nearly 40 years old, and with them came some of their former students. Although the students seemed to have understood the concept of book learning, they demonstrated this by the many big books some had studied. The ability, however, to apply what they had learned was not apparent. Some had studied Latin, Greek, French, rules of grammar and mathematics. The goal of the student was to get an education because they felt it would enable them to earn more money as school teachers. These students were truly motivated to learn the right thing as soon as it was shown to them, meaning what was right. Although the students had acquired the knowledge for things they had studied, they lacked knowledge of daily applications. They could locate the Sahara Desert or the capital of China on a globe, but the girls could not locate the proper places for their knives and forks on a dinner table or where to sit the meat and bread. Can you imagine trying to convince someone who had learned cube root and banking and discount that the wisest thing for him to do first was thoroughly master the multiplication table? Well, when an abandoned plantation became available for the sum of $500, Mr. Washington borrowed $250 from a friend for the down payment in order to acquire a larger facility. And I have to say, when he first went to his friend also was an educator. And Mr. Washington felt that his friend could get the money from the school. But his friend wanted him to know, that would not have been acceptable. He said, but I do have some personal monies, and I can let you borrow from that. Now, although the students were on board in preparing the old buildings, they could not see the value in clearing the land for crops. Many had been school teachers, as I said before, and saw no connection between clearing land and education. In order to keep them from feeling embarrassed of losing their dignity, Mr. Washington himself took an axe each afternoon after school, leading the way to the woods. When they saw that he was not afraid or ashamed to work, they began to assist with more enthusiasm, clearing 20 acres and planting crops. Now, Miss Olivia A. Davidson, whom Mr. Washington later married, was a leader planning events to repay the loan. She did this without asking a single white person for assistance. Blacks were glad to give whatever they could. The most memorable of givers was an old colored woman who was about 70 years old, who came to see Mr. Washington. She hobbled into the room, leaning on her cane, wearing rags, but they were clean rags. She said, "Mr. Washington, God knows I spent the best days of my life in slavery. God knows I'm ignorant and poor, but I know what you and Miss Davidson is trying to do. I know you is trying to make better men and better women for the colored race. I ain't got no money, but I want you to take these 6 eggs that I've been saving up, and I want you to put these 6 eggs into the education of these boys and girls." You see, what I got out of this is that God gives us visions, and sometimes you're not able to see how it will come into being. But all you have to know is that He is the creator of all that is, and in Him lies all that we need. Our greatest challenge is to just have faith. Faith to believe that what He intends will be, in spite of all the obstacles we may encounter. Thank you.